Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to tonight's episode of the Franchising 360 Show. I am Tim Parmeter, and this is our wonderful co-host, as always, Danielle Wright. And tonight on the Franchising 360 Show, we are going to basically get a big old mallet and smash and dispel a bunch of myths and misconceptions in the franchising world. One of the biggest goals tonight is see if I can ever actually say the word myth properly. So Danielle, you're going to go with that word. I'm going to go with the misconceptions word. But either way, we're going to smash the heck out of them.
Oh, some myths.
Myths.
We're going to say that a lot.
Yes, we are. And so how do we know what these myths and misconceptions are? First is back up and kind of who are we and what are we trying to do with this show? As the Franchising 360 Show, we are taking a full 360 degree look at the world of franchising. Danielle, you have been in the franchising world for 15 years.
Yes.
Worked for lots of brands.
Yes.
Own a franchise consulting firm called Creative Shift, where you work with franchisors and franchisees.
Yes.
So
this is correct.
And your name
Not
is
a myth.
Your name is Danielle.
Yes, not a myth.
Perfect. We've got
Perfect.
that. We are married.
Yes.
As of today, still currently.
Correct.
So we've got that. And so that 15 years experience, not much you haven't seen with franchise owners or franchisors.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And then on the other side, there's little old me with Fran Coach for the last 10 plus years. And our company helps people who might be interested in owning a franchise find the best one to own.
Correct.
So safe to say we in our lives have taken a 360 degree experience with franchising.
A few things in between. Yes.
Yes. Right. So it helps us understand what people are coming into this going, or kind of the fears, but those misconceptions. But there's a ton of them that we can take a big old mallet and smash tonight. Right.
Right. So we can look at it from things that people think about when they want to, hey, why should I buy a franchise, or why should I franchise my business model? We haven't really talked a lot about that.
Right.
But that could be a lot of who's listening this evening. Like, hey, I have this great business and I want to be able to turn it into a franchise. Why? But what are some myths in and around why they might not have previously? We've been franchisees. We can tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, I like to say. So there are lots of ways for us to crush on the myths. So what's a myth that you have, Parmeter?
Well, I think the first one that really kind of comes to mind for us when people are thinking about maybe becoming a franchise owner, a lot of folks are coming out of the corporate world.
Yes.
So they've got
like we were.
They've got corporate brain, and we get brainwashed in that situation. Whatever industry you're in, you very quickly get pigeonholed.
Right. Like I went to school and I got this degree, so I need this type of job because it aligns with my skill set.
Correct. Or you're the vice president of sales in industry X, and you're like, I'm tired of that industry. I want to go be a VP of sales in industry Y.
Right.
Doesn't typically work all that well, right? Because what are they going to, there's going to be that little HR person. I'm sorry, Danielle, but you don't have enough experience in this industry.
You have a story for that.
Oh man, do I have a story for that, right? As one of the biggest drivers for how I think I ultimately gave up working for people and getting into doing this myself. But that myth, ooh, I got it.
Oh, yay.
That you have to have experience in the industry in which you own a franchise, and you've been on the franchisor side. What is almost every franchise going to say for that?
That they don't want you to have that experience. I want to be able to teach you how to do the thing, right? Sell the widget, paint the wall, turn the wheel. I want it to be that way because, like we had said in a previous episode, it's about a plan.
Right.
And so the plan is showing you how to execute the business model the way that it was created. What you need someone to come to the table with is some common sense.
Wait,
dink.
Whoa, stop it right there. Common sense. But so people might be sitting there thinking, well, how can I own that business? You're going to tell me as the franchisor, you don't need me to have experience. Let's try to think of give us an example of, I have one in my head, but give us an example of an industry or a franchise.
Well, let's stick with the painting the walls, right? Where we're recording here, there's a franchise on the bottom floor of where we are that's about painting, and every painting franchise will say, I don't need you to be the guy with the brush.
Right.
I don't want you. Well, I get a lot of people like, but I want to know how to do it. Well, great. Go buy a brush from Home Depot and get some
Right.
paint and slap it on the wall at home, and there you go. But we need you to be able to hire the people. We need you to be able to take the tutelage on finding the right person that has experience in painting a residential home, painting commercial buildings, any type of job you're going to get in that industry. We want you to find the professionals that have been doing it for years. We want you to be the manager.
Right.
We want you to inspire and motivate. I
Right.
don't want you painting the wall.
Right. You're still going to learn how to do it in training, right? We always, you and I talk
Doesn't
off
it
air.
just like brush up and down?
Right. You and I talk off air about how like we got a sub-reference in McDonald's, but like McDonald's owners learn how to make fries. They don't spend all day in there doing it.
Right.
They're looking for business owners, not the doer, which really kind of leads us into one of the other myths that will come up with franchise. Oh, it's just buying a job, right? So
It can be.
right. And it can be, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that industry experience is really kind of what we're getting at where you don't need to. So let's come back to kind of that buying a job and a couple other big misconceptions in the world of franchising right after this on the Franchising 360 show. And we are back here on the Franchising 360 show. We are doing this whole like myth busting and talking about misconceptions. We talked about one of the biggest ones before the break of, oh my gosh, do I need industry experience to own a franchise? Absolutely not. And typically it's like they don't want that, but it kind of rolls into sometimes people are going to think that they are, the one, and I always kind of cringe when I hear it. Oh, franchise, I'm just buying a job. Danielle, what say you to that?
You can. Like, you can buy yourself a job. I'm not going to tell you can't own a franchise.
Right.
And I currently have someone that is in a specific industry, and he specifically wants a franchise business that stays focused on that.
Yeah.
Because it's his skill set. He likes it. He's passionate about it. He just no longer wants to make other people money.
Yes.
So that's part of
And
him buying himself a job.
When I think that's probably from my standpoint, as we talk to our clients thinking about owning a franchise, it's almost kind of insulting to the people who, I don't think they mean it that way, but to the people that really some of the happiest franchise owners kind of did exactly that.
Right.
Right.
And I think part of what we do and what your team does is that's the point of having the consultations and the conversations.
Right.
Is let's get to what you say, the getting out of bed test, what gets me out of bed. So if your current job does, yet you just feel limited by how much money I can make and what's my potential growth or where am I really going? How do I build something for myself? Then you can do that through a franchise and you don't have to create it on your own. And again, it's a plan and it's a system in a box and all of the code words that we keep saying. So let's bust some myths here, as you would like to say. Is you can buy a job, but the reality is it's you get to paint your own wall.
Yeah.
Like,
It is.
how do you want to paint it today?
Correct. It is such an incredibly individualized and personalized process. And one of the myths that we're going to talk about in a little bit is, what is there a top or is there a best franchise out there? But the majority of people are looking to come back to that industry experience, come in there and find a business that they can grow. So it's not necessarily it's not buying a job. It's really creating your own pathway for a business.
As you would like to say, your better tomorrow.
Your
Is that
better tomorrow.
right?
We create your better tomorrow here at Fran Coach. Thanks for pointing that out. As much as I know that makes you cringe every time that comes out there.
Every single time, cringe-worthy.
So just you're a hater because you didn't come up with it.
So we've busted that myth.
We've busted that
What's
myth.
the next myth?
So I think the other thing is the other side of this is. So Danielle, I'm coming to your franchisor. I'm just going to give you some money and I'm not going to do anything. And I'm just like, I'm going to kick my feet up and let you make it all.
It can be just an investment.
Correct.
I would tell you to call your stock person, give them the money, and let them do that, because a business needs to be operated and run. There is no business that just says, here, let me cut you a check for 6 figures and I'll come back to collect my profits later.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. So there's that whole like completely passive or absentee is really
Those are buzzwords.
right, and a little bit of a fallacy in this, right?
A myth. It
right?
is a true
it's
myth.
a myth where let's crush that one. But there are things where I don't have to be full-time into the business.
Right.
That is a thing.
Right. So what we like to call that is either an executive business or a semi-absentee business.
Right.
Now, you guys at home will hear us say semi-absentee, and it's
A lot.
It's a dirty set of words. It's not just one word. It's a dirty set of words. It's really just kind of teeing yourself up for what what do you want in this next phase, right? Everything that we talk about here with franchising, it's about a transition plan. So if you don't like the word franchising, like, well, then what's my transition plan?
Right.
So if you bust the myth that it's a passive investment, it's not. It's something you want to be involved in. The other myth is semi-absentee means I only have to put a couple of hours into it and a little bit of money. The reality is everything's going to cost you something, and it's either going to be time or money. So the myth busting is semi-absentee is the closest you're going to get to having kind of that part-time work balance.
Right. It's whatever, if you're a full-time owner and it is kind of your full-time gig, there's that. But when you're semi-absentee, and you and I know that is the most poorly defined term in franchising, right? Because
you want to use it, be sure to ask what that means to somebody.
Right.
So it's not,
it can be wildly different.
You can look it up in the Webster's dictionary if anybody still has those, right? Or you Google that semi-absentee and make sure you put franchising with it.
Right.
It really is determined by the franchisor.
Right.
So when you're talking to them and deciding what franchise you want, even as franchises or business owners that want to turn into a franchise, clearly decide what you want that 20, 30 hours a week to look like for that owner and their involvement in the business. We've talked about the 7 spinning plates a bunch.
Right.
So that's where you really can kind of determine what that looks like. There are franchises that say that they're pretty passive. I think there are ones that are like in vending machines where you just put the vending machine somewhere and all of a sudden you come and service it once a week or whatever, right? I think. Am I wrong?
No, true.
More about that
No, true. And I think that semi-absentee, which is will be a whole episode here in a few weeks, right? It could be a few hours. One franchise might say, hey, we need an owner 8 to 10 hours a week. The other one may say 25 plus. You're working those hours full-time, so to speak. If you're supposed to do 10, do 10, right? To kind of make that work. But that is possible.
So what's our next myth?
Well, that's a great question, but let's leave that
having some fun.
Let's have that as a surprise, because it's really going to be a cliffhanger for when everybody comes back after this commercial break. On the Franchising 360 show, we're going to bust some more myths, and eventually I'll learn how to say that right after this on the Franchising 360 show. And we are back here on the Franchising 360 show tonight. We are busting a myth.
Woohoo!
I said the word correctly, and now because I'm old, I hear bust a myth. It makes me go back to the old young MC, bust a move.
Nope. Nope.
Can we dance to it?
Nope.
Get everybody ready for their Friday night.
I'm sure.
Okay, possibly
throw out a hip.
Possibly not.
But you're such a good dancer.
I am. Thank you. That is recorded on air for life. I love it. We will not bust that myth because that is a big one.
So
but
back to busting franchise.
Franchise ones. There's always money. Money. Oh my gosh, Danielle, I'd love to own a franchise, but geez, it's going to take like millions of dollars or something, right?
Yeah, the myth of I have to have money to invest money and to make money. Myth. Okay.
So is that true?
Is it true? I don't think so. Not in my experience.
Right.
There's money everywhere. You just got to find it in couch cushions. At a thing called a bank.
Right. So, and this is going to be like even more relevant at the end of the show because I've got an amazing question that's kind of about this teed up for everybody.
I love some questions.
Right. But you don't need it all sitting in your pocket. Right. There are ways to get it that we'll go through, but but it's also not millions and millions of dollars either.
I think I could be wrong, totally jump in here, right? There are plenty of businesses that are less than $50,000. And I'm going to sit here and say it's not like $50,000 is a small amount of money.
Right.
But there are ones that are in the millions, but some people are like, I don't have those dollars sitting in the bank. Most people don't.
Right. And that's okay.
Right. It's like that whole, hey, you got to have 6 months of savings stocked away for your bills.
Right.
Yeah. Said whoever, not me.
So, but that's part of that when we talk about the money, and we went over this a week or so back, I think, is that like operating capital and being kind of properly capitalized. But you don't need millions. You do need some typically, but there are going to be funding options that are out there for folks.
Your team's found alternatives, right? Like there's options for people. So I wouldn't say that you could have $0 like that.
Right.
But on the flip, that gives us an action plan, right? Like let's figure out what that needs to look like for you so that you can put everything into order. If that's really the get out of bed is I want to
Yeah.
work for myself, then
Right.
the myth that we're busting is that you don't have to have like millions to
Right.
invest millions. You
But can I
have
make millions?
dollars.
Because that's kind of one too sometimes, right? Like when you think of
If I don't pay to play, I don't pay to win.
right. I think there's two kind of around money. It's one, the more I invest, the more I make.
Okay.
And that's typically not always the case. Sometimes it's reverse, right?
Right.
But there's also now somebody becoming a franchise owner, like, can I make $1 million?
We talked about this. I struggle with telling you what you can make because that's an earnings claim,
Correct.
right? Like, so could you? I'm sure the potential is there for anyone to do that.
Right.
That, again, the caveat is you.
Right, exactly.
Like,
right.
not me,
Right.
you.
Finding the right fit, the money follows the fit. But again, it is there, but it goes back to the work and then all the ways in which you can grow that business
Right.
beyond
What
maybe that
you're
first
going to
unit.
put into it isn't
Right.
always necessarily the money. There's a sweat equity piece. There's the work that you're going to do. Like, and really it's how much are you willing to borrow?
Right.
It's a dirty word,
Risk.
So if you're willing to take the risk on yourself and you know that what's the question that you guys always ask, right? Like, when have you ever actually failed at something?
Right, right.
Is that right? Is that the right question?
Right. When you think of that, like from somebody historically, what in your background, when have you failed miserably professionally? I always qualify professionally because we may have that personal one in there, right?
Right.
So, but when have you done that when it's been what you're good at, right? And that's what this is all about.
So how would you bust this myth about money?
So I think you've got a situation where can you make $1 million as a franchise owner? Well, of course you can, right? But I think the bigger myth is that, and again, no, that's not an earnings claim, but can you?
There's a lot to that.
Right.
There's like an itty bitty language underneath.
Can
what
you?
said.
Yes. Are you going to do it like immediately right off the bat? No. Are you typically going to be able to do it with one unit of a franchise? Probably not.
Right.
So then it gets into that scalability, and there's a whole nother thing of, what you make as an employee and what you think you're going to make as a business owner are two totally different numbers as well.
As a plug for BizTV, there are plenty of other shows on this network that can teach you about the art of investing. And they would also probably tell you, you don't put money into the stock market and become a millionaire overnight.
Correct.
If you did, you need to call me with your broker information.
Right. Because that one stock or one unit of an Apple stock, like I don't care when you bought it,
Right.
you don't have $1 million in your bank account from that.
Correct.
Right. So, and then the other thing is I want to kind of come back to here in a second is on the franchisor side.
Okay.
Right. So there are kind of
Let's clearly define that again, just so that anyone that might have missed, the franchisor is the group that creates the business model.
Right.
Think McDonald's.
McDonald's is the
360
franchisor.
Painting. Think Club Pilates. Those are the franchisors.
Excellent. So, but what are some of the misconceptions for those franchisors? We're going to hit that up when we come back. And we've got a great question that's going to lead us into our next episode. That on the Franchising 360 show right after this. And welcome back to the Franchising 360 show. This is the myth busting edition. Again, insert like dramatic sound effect right there. We have talked about some of the myths and misconceptions about becoming a franchise owner. We've talked repeatedly about my inability to say the word myth. With an S at the end. We've also talked about one of them as far as becoming when you are a franchise owner.
Yes.
But now we got Sally out there, and Sally's got her own business. It's booming. And she's like, maybe I want to turn that into a franchise. So what's some of the kind of misconceptions you've run across in all years on the franchisor side for Sally turning her business into a franchise?
We've actually worked with that a lot, right? Like recently, you and I have gotten quite a few people that either they want to turn their business into a franchise or they just started franchising. And I think there are a bunch of myths. See, that's how you say it.
Well done.
Yeah, slowly articulate that you're going to make a lot of money by becoming a franchise. And I think they think it's also going to happen quickly, and it doesn't.
Right. That's the bigger one, right? I mean, can you, again, like with Evan, can you make a lot of money with it? Well, yes. Is it going to happen
instantaneously?
No.
Can you say that word?
Instantaneously.
That's
yes.
better. But myths is out.
I can't do it. I don't know why.
So there's that. I think everyone's really focused on how much money I can make and I can scale. I think owners that decide to turn businesses into franchises want to become the next hot thing on the gram, right? And so it just takes time. And then there are the people that do it because they've been shelling out money and working it so hard and working in it versus on it, like we like to say. And so being able to franchise it takes a little bit of the pressure off, and it can do all of those things. I think the biggest piece is time. The myth is time.
It's just not right away. And just because you've worked so hard at your business and you love your business, you also have to realize that somebody else is going to look at it and go, nah, that's not for me.
And that is
like,
the hardest.
What? That's mine.
That's the other myth, right? Like you can instantly like have franchise owners. It's the hardest to go from 0 to 1.
Yeah.
Right? Like even day 1 of your business, it went really hard from day 1 to day 365.
Think of getting that first customer when you first opened up.
I bet you were the nicest person.
Yes.
Are you the nicest person still?
Probably not so much. Probably not. Probably a little jaded in there. Right. But just that overall, I think kind of really whether it's as a franchise owner or becoming a franchisor, it's just not like if you're looking for a quick win.
Again, call your stockbroker, invest the dollars. Keep running your business, maybe give it to your kids, right? Like just choose a different path. Because I think what people need to know is it's not without its own struggles. Like you think you're struggling on your own. Imagine you have 50 children. Think about that for just 50. We're not talking like how many units are in a certain
one
system,
half time is
right?
hard
like
enough.
There's a system in fitness that has 1,000 units, right? So 1,000 units, you have 1,000 children that you now have to help and support. I'm going to drop your mic there.
No, it is. And when you think that quick win as a franchise owner or a franchisor,
good.
Or that you're going to make all that money right away. If you went and got another job and they're like, well, here's your salary. It's $150,000. They don't give you that all on day one, right? Like it's doled out over.
They do. I need that gig, right? Where do I sign up for that?
So just tons of things that are, and hopefully somebody out there was kind of thinking of these things a little bit anyway. But no, I love this, and there's probably a whole bunch more of these.
For sharing the myths
we could
and allowing me to bust them, as you would say.
Thank you for busting them, and thank you for saying the word.
You're welcome.
The word.
You're welcome.
The word.
You're
myths.
welcome.
So we have these amazing mugs. They are so cool. People are just flooding us with questions. So did you know that?
Is that a myth buster too?
No, that's a real thing. So, and we have a question today from Macy. Macy is in Florida. So, and she had a question about kind of the money thing we talked about earlier is, do I have to have all of that money in cash, or are there ways to get funding options or anything like that?
Macy, you're at the right place.
Yes.
I think we know a few people. We're not one of them, but there are people.
We know a guy. Well,
a girl.
Yes, because a guy named Shirley. So that'll be. So our dear friend is actually our entire next episode is all about funding options and one of the premier lending and funding specialists in franchising. So Macy, we got you taken care of.
Tune in.
In the meantime, we'll get you one of these cups. You can lap up whatever you want right out of here, and it'll be awesome. So Danielle, what do you say next Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific? Let's do it again.
I think I'm contractually bound.
I think so too. And since you're my ride, we're going to make it happen.
There we go.
Until next Friday, thank you again for tuning in. The franchising360show.com. There's a little QR code on the screen, hopefully too, that works possibly. So reach out to us.
We're in franchising, not tech.
Anytime, reach out. But until next Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific here on BizTV. This is Danielle Wright.
Bye.
I'm Tim Parmeter, and this is the Franchising 360 Show.